Hi and welcome to Online Appliance Tech. Today we're working on a newer model Kenmore French door refrigerator. This model number here starts with a 111 and it used Daewoo parts. So the problem, like I said, was having this fresh food section is not cooling. So if you press the button down and feel no airflow, 99% of the time it's your fan that's either locked up with ice or just not working. So let's get started with repair. Just pull this top drawer right out. And you're also going to want to remove the bottom drawer, so I recommend just open up the two double drawers on the top. This way you can kind of tilt this drawer at an angle and lift straight out. Okay, now having the drawer removed, we're going to remove these Phillips screws. There's two at the bottom and two at the top on each side. And there's a Phillips. You can use a drill or a hand tool. I recommend just removing the two at the bottom first and then the top. Okay, let's remove the remaining screws. Okay, you also want to remove these two Phillips screws. They're some type of support clip. Okay, at this point you should just pull the door towards you and it should come right off. Okay, if your refrigerator has this icicle effect and ice on the wall and the back and so forth, that indicates your fan is either bad and not removing moisture or you have a clogged drain line. So first thing we want to do here to get to the back, we're going to remove this ice maker. Here's two Phillips screws, one on the right, one on the left. Okay, once removed, you'll pull the ice maker forward and then disconnect the harness. The harness is clipped in, so you basically have to just squeeze the harness and it should just come right off. Let me see if I can get a good angle. So the harness has a little clip, so you have to squeeze the clip down and then that will release the harness. And sorry for the bad camera angle, just a tight spot. So this is the clip I'm talking about. So you just press that down and then that will release the harness. Okay, so now we're going to remove this support shelf. There are three Phillips screws that hold this support shelf into place. So once you remove this, you'll just pull this outwards towards your right and pull straight out, and that's it. And we'll do the same thing to the one on the right. Okay, to remove this back panel, you have two little plastic clips that you have to remove the Phillips screws. As I can see, someone's worked on this one before already, as the one on the left is already gone. So remove the 2 Phillips screws out this. You have a Phillips screw in there, you just have to remove. Okay, so now we're going to remove the panel. I'm just going to shake it till it gives. I'm not going to yank on it too hard, because if it is still frozen or frozen too much, I can yank on the evaporator or even mess up a line and have a restriction. So definitely make sure this thing is defrost before you start yanking on it, or you might want to give it a day or two to defrost before you try to remove it, or you may have a steamer. This is what I used on this one before I pulled on it. So just kind of tilt it towards its left and down, and then as you can see, there is the ice. It's not allowing the fresh food to cool. And then now we're going to disconnect this harness that connects to the freezer fan motor. As you can see here, this has a little clip that you press down and it releases it from the wall. Okay, having this disconnected from the wall, just slide this down, and then this way you can have access to work on everything you need to. Okay, let me use my steamer real quick. Okay, moving this fan blade, it actually feels like a good fan. You can hear it hit the ice, but I'm just going to replace it anyway. I just don't know if the ice messed it up or not, so I just don't want to take no chances. So disconnect the harness, and then you have 3 Phillips screws. I recommend just to remove the screw out enough, but keep it in the housing of the fan and remove it with your hand. One thing you do not want to do is drop it in that evaporator, then you'll have a hard time getting it out. Usually when the fan is bad, the piston is pretty messed up, and when you turn the fan blade, it will wiggle or make a noise. But in this case, drain line was clogged, and that was allowing the water to pull up at the bottom of the evaporator. So when the fan works, it basically just moves the moisture in an up position, and then it just causes the fan to build up with ice, and also it messes up the sensors. So just pull this straight out once you remove the screws. Be careful not to damage the evaporator. And you also have a little clip here on the right, which my angle is not the best, but I will show you once I get it out. You gotta push it in, so just take a flathead, and then let me show you right here. So there's the fan. See, it seems fine. It just spins, no type of wiggling or nothing, so I'm sure it was fine. Okay, so you can see the ice here. That's what the fan was hitting, and that's just basically caused by a lot of moisture. Let me just remove this. One thing you want to do is not use a blow dryer, because it will melt the plastic and you'll mess it up, and you probably won't be able to install your new one. So right now I'm unwrapping the new evaporator fan motor, and I'm just putting a new one in just to be cautious, because I just don't want to go back and forth. This is the part number. I will leave this in the description below if you do need this assembly. Oh, I forgot to tell you about the clip that you have to remove with the flathead right here. So you have to kind of press it in and then press towards you. So let's put it back in. So you have to put that little clip in and then line it up with the 3 screws. One thing you have to do is kind of go behind the evaporator, and just be careful, like I said, not to mess up your evaporator. So just have a lot of patience and take your time. So once you get everything lined up, you can see that the 3 holes are lined up with the screws, and you got the clip back in. I recommend just using 1 screw at a time. Basically, don't do this because it'll just fall, because they're not magnetic. So you're going to take your 1 by 1 and just put it in, and then this will actually hold it into place, and just kind of hand tighten it just enough, and then you'll just take your drill or hand tool to tighten it up. Okay, reinstall your coax. And then spin your fan blade just to make sure nothing's hitting the sides of it that would cause it not to work. So this is what I was talking about, all the water piled up here at the bottom. I don't know if you can see it that well, but it's a big puddle of water. And that basically indicates the drain line is clogged. So one thing we have to do is declog this drain line. Signs of a clogged drain line is most of the time you'll start to see water come out the freezer door, and also your fresh food will stop cooling because it will lock up that fan as you saw in the beginning of the video. So what I'm doing here, I'm just removing all these screws. They're all Phillips. Remove the back panel, and then we're going to check the drain tubes out to make sure they have no type of restrictions. And if you do have a clogged drain line and your fresh food is not cooling, more than likely that was your main source, but I always just like to be cautious and just replace the fan because I'm already in there, and they actually are a common problem to go bad. Okay, so this refrigerator has 2 drain tubes. Some of them actually have 3, so just remove one by one, and then you'll check and make sure they have no type of debris that would cause it not to drain the water out. This one on the right is the one that goes to the freezer. Sometimes you'll remove these and this water will just gush down, but this one definitely had a restriction, so as you can see here, you just pull down and forward. So at this point, I already tried to use my steamer a couple times to flush it out. It was not working. So I'm going to take my steamer and actually go from the back for once. Usually I can get it from the front, but I was able to fit this in there, and I just steamed the line out, and it finally gave. Okay, as you can see here, all the water is coming out now. So this is when the evaporator heater turns on, or when the heater turns on, the water is supposed to come down here to the condenser, the drip pan, I guess you would call it. And if it does not, it will just build up in the top. It will come out the front door of the freezer, and it can mess up your evaporator fan motor also. So what I was talking about earlier, if it cannot get down here to the drip pan, it will just fill up the water in the little area and be under the evaporator. So when the fan turns on, it'll just suck the water and moisture up, and then it'll just build up with ice and then lock up your fan, and then it'll stop working. But if your evaporator fan motor does make a sound, or it wiggles, the shaft wiggles a lot, and at the bottom of the evaporator does not have remaining water, more than likely it's your fan. And like I stated, that is a common problem with these L111 Kenmore refrigerators, the evaporator fan problem. So we can see here all the water is gone. So what I like to do also, there's a drain line too, or the drain hole. But what I'd like to do is get a cup or a glass of water and just pour it down the back of the evaporator. And this way we can make sure that everything is going down to the drip pan. Okay, once verified there's no restrictions, we're going to install the panel. Just lift it up enough just to connect the right coax, there we go. And this is your freezer fan motor. You have 2 different motors, one for the freezer and one for the fresh food. So that's why your freezer still works and your fresh food doesn't. So when you install this panel, you want to go at a down angle first and press the bottom end. And then once you have the bottom end all the way across, you're going to press the top end as you hold the bottom. Just take your time and press it in. So once you know that you have everything nice and aligned, you're going to install the 2 Phillips screws. The one on the right and the one on the left. And then once you're done, you'll put your little plastic caps back on. One thing I do like to do is wipe down everything, all the moisture, because it will freeze back up and it can mess up the sensors from sensing right. So there's the cap, the plastic cap. Kind of goes on one little way, it just clips right on. Okay, let's reinstall the side support shelf. So the same way you took it off, instead of side angle, slide it in and then press towards the wall and just install the 3 Phillips screws. And once you do this side, just do the same on the right. Okay, so now we're going to reinstall the ice maker. So it has one little clip on the right. First thing first, connect the harness. It just clips right back in. And then you have a little slide-in wedge, I guess you would call it. And then you'll just lift it flush to the housing of the freezer and slide it straight back and it'll click right in. And now you'll just reinstall your 2 Phillips screws. And once again, sorry for the camera angle. It was kind of a weird angle to get a good camera view. But I'm sure that you got the point. Okay, let's reinstall the doors. So I like to get 2 screws ready in my hand, and that way I can kind of just put in and hand tighten it, and then I can adjust it with my foot. That way I make sure the screw goes straight and not sideways. So as you can see here, I'm just hand tightening it. Then I'll just do the same thing on the right hand side. Okay, now having the door supported, I'm just going to snug them up just enough but not too much. This way I can remove the frame to align the other screws in with the door. Okay, so just align the frame support where it lines up with the 2 other screws and just put one at the bottom. And then do the same on the other side. So just adjust it. Okay, so now since I have it aligned, I'm going to install the Phillips screw and then I'm going to tighten up the top one. Okay, so same thing here. I'm going to move the frame where it lines up with the 2 holes, and then I'm just going to put one at the bottom and then tighten up the one at the top. Okay, now let's install these drawer supports. One thing I do recommend before you start the repair or to remove the door is to take a picture to see exactly how they were on there. But before I install those, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the remainder of these Phillips screws. Now having all the screws installed, I'm going to install this drawer support. This one just goes in one way, so you can't really mess this up But like I stated before, I recommend definitely taking a picture for the bottom one. So I'm looking at this, so this screw actually goes in, there's a spring in there and the screw goes in between the spring, and that's what holds it into place. So I'm gonna go, well, here's a good example. You put the spring in and then the screw. And then once you get it where you want it, you just hold it and have your tool ready, because it doesn't really stick on there, so you have to have the drill ready or your hand tool ready. Okay, let's do the other side. Okay, so I went ahead and plugged the fridge back in. Let's install the two drawers. So we'll slide the big one in first. You'll just slide right in and click right into place. And then you'll just put the upper drawer in, slide it in on your two support rails. As you'll see the wheels just slide on. And then shut the door, make sure everything is nice and sealed. Test the fresh food, hold the button down if you feel cold air, then that's great, you have a working fan. Well, I hope this video was helpful, and please like and subscribe for more future tips and videos. Have a good day.